Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Omega Metroid Podcast. My name is Andy Spiteri. We are in 2022, the first show of the year, and I'm happy to be joined by my good friends, two of the coolest guys in the Metroid scene, and what makes this podcast spin around and around. Dakota Lasky, Doom Crossing. How are you, gentlemen? How was your Christmas? Was Santa good to you? And do you have anything fun that you would like to share that you did on New Year's?
Wow, what an introduction, man. Well, hey, I'm happy to be on this show with a good Metroid friend and friends as well. So, you know what? It's been great. We're almost at episode 100 too, by the way, which is hype as hell. Yeah, I had a pretty good New Year, pretty good holidays and whatnot. Saw some family, saw some friends, did a little skiing. Otherwise, back at it and whatnot. So here we are, another year of the show, and like I said, getting to that episode 100, which is hype. So yeah, I'm doing pretty good, man.
Yeah, I have some ideas for episode 100 too. I didn't mean to cut you off, Doom, but I have an idea that I'll pitch you gentlemen after the show, and then there's going to be some cool stuff coming as well around the time that episode 100 launches. So keep it tuned to Omega for that. Doom, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, it's all good. Special event for the triple digits. It's all understandable. I don't know if I make the show go round and round. Maybe 45-degree angles, 90-degree if we're being nice. But I like to do what I can. When I can. My Christmas, really good Christmas. Not gonna lie, I kind of got spoiled this year.
Nice.
Not bad spoilers like No Way Home spoilers, but like the good kind of spoils, like lots of cool gifts. I got the Halo Infinite physical campaign. I got some cash, got some new CDs to add to my music collection because I'm still a boomer that likes physical music, and yeah, that was all good. And then New Year's, Omicron ruined all my plans, so I got drunk and played Halo with some friends, and it was a lot of fun.
Oh, there you go. You know what? I'm actually looking at some CDs in my desk. They're mostly for decoration at this point because like I have all my music digitally, but like I'm looking at about, I don't know, probably like 20 CDs or so cases just sitting on my desk, some classic CDs in there. So I'm kind of with you in that regard. No
Nice.
shame in that.
Yeah, I'm proud to say that I don't own any CD-ROMs or discs at all. Ever. Well, no, I guess I still have some of my old game discs, but I don't have any like music discs, I don't think. So
yeah, I think that these are from like many years. Like these are from my childhood. Although I did make an exception, I think 3-ish years ago, I bought a CD for like the first time in forever. I bought the new Mike Shinoda CD. So that's, I think that's the last, the latest CD to my copy.
Yeah,
here,
now I'm thinking like where my old CDs would be. Because I don't even know.
I'm going to list off some of the ones I'm looking at. So I'm looking at Jay-Z, The Black Album. I'm looking at Power Numbers, Jurassic 5. Of course, Under My Skin, Avril Lavigne. Got like 4 Linkin Park CDs in here.
Big Pop. The other 2 were better.
Oh, come on, man. Avril
Jurassic 5, man.
Yeah, dude, giving me some Tony Hawk Underground flashbacks.
Yeah.
There's even the Final Fantasy IX soundtrack just sitting in here, just doing its thing. So... shout out to that. But I'm glad that all you guys had a good Christmas and a good New Year, and I'm looking forward to another great year of Metroid content. And who knows what this year is going to bring us? There's been rumors swirling around, and we know that we have Metroid Prime 4 somewhere on the horizon. I don't know if this is the year that we finally see it or if it isn't. But
we're absolutely seeing it this year. Like I do not have a single doubt in my mind.
Okay. When do you
put
think
my
we're
bank?
seeing it?
We're seeing it at E3. Put my bank account statement on the line for that one. I'm going all in.
You got a lot of cash for Christmas, so I mean,
yeah,
you're ready to go.
Ching, buddy. All right. Well, okay. Well, you heard it there. Doom is full throttle ahead that we're seeing Metroid Prime 4. I'm not as optimistic, and actually, I'm completely side railing the show here before we get going.
I was gonna say, didn't we do this episode already?
Well, I just completely different, but I want your guys' opinion on this. So I did something. I recorded a show yesterday, and I don't actually even think that we're getting Breath of the Wild 2 in 2022. I think that's slipping to 2023. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you say the likelihood of that happening is?
Honestly, I say it's a coin flip, so I'm gonna put it at a 5.
Okay.
Breath of the Wild in 2023. I mean, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I'm also 50-50 on that. Could go either way.
I think, I went like 6 out of 10 that it was coming in 2022. So I'm a little bit more positive, but I was just like, man, every Zelda game ever gets delayed, obviously, and this one probably already has been delayed. But like, is it really that implausible to think that our mortal enemy COVID-19 isn't done with us and gonna?
They're
push some of
saving
these
it for the
games
Switch
back?
Pro, man. They're saving it for
I-
the next system in
wish.
2023 or 2024
It'll launch
or
along
whatever. I don't know.
Metroid Prime 4.
I
What
I
did we
would
call
play
it
it.
last episode? Metroid Prime.
New Metroid Prime.
New Metroid Prime.
Yes.
No, I had a cool subtitle for it. What
No,
was it?
you didn't. You didn't actually. I don't remember it because it wasn't cool. It was like Metroid Prime Revelation.
It was
or
Metroid
something.
Prime 4 and then a subtitle, right, Andy?
No,
it's
he
probably
doesn't want a
Metroid Prime
number.
Returns.
No,
That'd
that's
be
his
cool.
problem. Is he doesn't want a number. No, it's not Metroid Prime Return. That would be
Oh,
cool.
that's-
That would be cool.
that's
There's already a
money.
game called Samus. Oh my! There's already a game. I'm
You
sorry.
smell that? It's
I'm not
money.
gonna get worked
Oh.
up. It's already. It's
Okay, back on the Zelda
not
thing.
that- no.
Here's what I will say. If we do not see any hint of Breath of the Wild 2, even a tease in the next Nintendo Direct, it's getting pushed back to 2023. If they do show like a little tease in the Direct hinting for the E3 reveal, then I think it's still releasing this year. That's what I will say
completely agree
regarding
with
it.
you. Yeah, I made a bet actually with my Zelda co-host Allison Aletha about if we would see a little tease at the latest Nintendo Direct, which is probably coming in like February or March, because like they got to give us the title. Like, you don't even know what this game is called.
It's
right?
gonna be
Like,
Breath of the Wild 2 or Shadow of the Breath of the Wild or Rise of the
I-
Breath of the Wild.
I would stick my head
Something
out
like that.
my window right now in minus 27 degrees Celsius weather and scream if this game was called Breath of the Wild 2. That would be so awful.
I'm down for that. I'm down for 2 Breath 2 Wild. Let's do it.
Breath
Okay,
of the
you know
Wild
what?
Tokyo Drift
Maybe I could make an exception.
in the Hylian cycle.
2 Kyo Drift. Breath of the Wild 2
Oh,
Kyo
God.
Drift.
This time, it's personal. They got family involved.
Yeah, it's about Link's family. He has a family in the new game, right? Like that's a thing. He can have a family. Has he ever had a dad? Do we know Link's dad?
He's had an uncle.
Yeah.
He's had a
He's-
grandma in Wind Waker.
He's had a grandma and a sister.
Oh yeah, grandmother and Windmaker. I do remember that, and the sister.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's about
We
it.
need like
I'm
a
not-
family drama, like mad cousins and whatnot, like Sopranos style. Sorry, go on.
This is our first Omega Metroid podcast of the year, and already it is just absolutely.
You know,
off
with speaking,
the
you say
rails.
that because I was gonna bring up for the 100th episode. I wanted to read some of the reviews of the show that are on the various platforms, and the reason I said that is because I've read some of those reviews, and most of them are complaining about me. But there's one about me getting worked up about stuff, and I was thinking in my head, all right, it's a new year. I'm not gonna get super worked up. And then I just did over your dumb Metroid Prime Returns thing. So like I already broke that. Like, so I'm sorry to that one person who is not a fan. I'll try to rein it in. But what were we talking about? Let's let's get back.
We weren't talking about anything here. We're just
Let's get into
the
this
train
episode.
is just crashing here. You know what? One last thing before we get into the show, and I promise this is the last thing. But kind of as Dak was just saying there were so many amazing reviews that were posted about Omega. If it was on Spotify or Apple or whatever. Like there's so many kind words out there. We met so many great friends in the last year that we just want to say that we appreciate it all. We appreciate all of you guys sticking through this goofiness of the first couple minutes of our shows and being on this ride with us. So it's been a heck of a time, and I've had a lot of fun. So I just want to thank everybody that listens, that reviews, and that hangs out with us in Discord. You're all very much appreciated. So just wanted to make that known. But now that we have shilled and dilly-dallied for a little bit here, let's get to the actual show here. And we wanted to start the new year off with kind of a positive vibe, a look back at the biggest thing to happen to Metroid, certainly in 2021, arguably maybe ever since Metroid Prime, or maybe just ever in general. And that, of course, is Metroid Dread. And we wanted to talk about some of our favorite moments from this game. We're going to bounce around because I'm sure that a lot of us listening, and certainly us three, have a lot of the same stuff here. And then we're going to kind of thought experiment what it would have been like if Metroid Dread would have released originally as intended on the Nintendo DS, and how that might have changed the trajectory and the course of the Metroid series. And it's worth noting too, actually, there's a new video that came out, I want to say yesterday or 2 days ago, as we're recording this, and it's from Did You Know Gaming, and it's an extensive breakdown into the history of Metroid Dread and whatever. And I watched that, and it was really interesting. And the thing that caught me by surprise, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to watch it yet, but the thing that caught me by surprise is actually when Mercury Steam came on board to potentially get involved with the Metroid franchise, they basically pitched essentially a remake of Metroid Prime Hunters. Did you guys know that?
No, I haven't watched the video yet, but what? Wait.
Yeah.
I'm watching that. I'm watching that right after this. No lie.
Yeah, I wasn't really expecting that. It wasn't a remake per se, but it was the same idea, first person shooter. You could control a bunch of different bounty hunters. So,
oh my god.
Yeah.
Even in the campaign too,
god.
not just the multiplayer.
Yeah, so it really, really fascinating stuff. Maybe we'll cover the information in that video long form already. A lot of it is kind of rehashed what we covered in our previous Metroid Dread episode that came out before Metroid Dread was a real game again in 2021. Lots of really good stuff there, but let's flip it over to the game that was my game of the year for last year for sure by a comfortable margin, Metroid Dread. Let's talk about some of our favorite moments. Doom, you've been saying that you've beaten this game so many times that you've lost count. I think I've played about 20 hours of Metroid Dread this week alone, so I am ready to delve in and absolutely just share some of my love and appreciation for this game, because the more I play it, the more it grows. So how about you start us off, Doom? Get us kicked off with one of your top moments from this game. We don't have to go in any particular order if you don't want. We could just kind of shoot about Metroid Dread and see where it takes us.
All right, well, I'll just start off with the big thing, and I know this is on your list too. Well, I'm looking at your list, so I know it's on there. But even if it wasn't on your list, I'd know it was there. Go for it.
We're gonna put this out there for the last time, because after this, if you got Metroid Dread for Christmas, I think everybody that has played Metroid Dread, that wants to play Metroid Dread, has played it by now. So this is the last time that we're going to say this, but there's a spoiler warning. And after this show, after this day, we're just going to talk about Metroid Dread, assuming everyone that listens to this show has probably beaten Metroid Dread, and if you haven't, then you've probably been avoiding any shows about Metroid Dread. So, this is the final warning. This is the final chance to skip out before we spoil Metroid Dread forever and ever. Because after this, we're not going to say spoilers anymore. It's just, we're going to talk about the watermelon and everything else.
Yo, honestly, I'm so beyond Metroid Dread spoilers. I'm on the fence. I might even say some Spider-Man spoilers at that point.
Whoa.
I'm already at this
Hold
point.
up
Let's
now.
start talking.
No.
Let's start
Don't be that
talking. No,
I agree, but this isn't the podcast for that. This isn't the podcast
I
for
wouldn't.
that.
I wouldn't do that.
This is a ceasefire zone for Spider-Man spoilers.
No Spider-Man spoilers, because admittedly, I did get spoiled very, very, very slightly, and then the next day I went to go see it. So, it is a movie you need to see yourself. I would definitely not do that. But Dread's been out for a little bit. I think we're good.
Maybe that'll be a topic for virtual theater. But anyways, back on to the favorite moment. So Andy, even if this wasn't on your list, I knew that it would be something that would pop up anyway, because it's something that we've just absolutely gushed about. But oh my goodness, the speed booster in this game it is a Vincent van Gogh work of art, if you ask me. It's absolutely perfection. It's absolutely beautiful in every sense of the word. I didn't think after Metroid Zero Mission it could get any better than this. I was super hyped when I found out that the speed booster was in this game, because, again, I didn't watch any of the trailers, so I had no idea what to expect or not, so it was a nice surprise to see that appear in the game. But I was like, okay, obviously this maybe it'll be on level with Metroid Fusion or something like that. There's no way it's going to even come close to Zero Mission, and it actually surpassed that, and it's not even close really. This is by far the supreme version of the speed booster. There's so much additional tech that you can do, not just with Metroid Dread's new abilities with like the sliding and all that, but you can jump while speed boost. You can go in and out of morph ball while speed boosting. You can wall jump and still maintain your speed boost. And there's so many cool things. You can speed boost on a breakable block and crouch at just the right moment, break the block, and still retain your speed booster charge. Oh my gosh, it's so satisfying when you get all that and you chain everything together. And then they use these abilities together in all the puzzles, and there's different ways you can solve the puzzles. So it's kind of like Breath of the Wild almost in a sense, where you're not just limited to one solution, and it's so much fun to use, and everything just coalesces and meshes together wonderfully.
Yep. I you know what? I had on my list like some of the speed boost puzzles, but I think what I'm really saying, just to echo you, is like, the speed boost in this game is awesome. It's so good. It's far and away, the absolute best version of the speed boost that has ever existed. I think that it's not even close. And it was really nice to see that come back, like especially after they skipped it in Samus Returns. I know that you had the that one ability that kind of slowed down time that served as like kind of a makeshift speed boost, but really that just made everything else slower, and it's not as satisfying. So like, man, the way that you can use your momentum in this game is so incredible. And like all of those crazy Shine Spark puzzles, like if you've heard me talk mapping Metroid, or you've heard me talk like expansions or whatever, like that I'm like a big go and get 100% of the items kind of guy. So yeah, I absolutely just, man, this speed boost is something else. All the puzzles in this game are just absolutely killer. So yeah, this is one of the best things about the game. Probably about the gameplay, it might be the best. Maybe story has a few different beats that it can take, but in terms of actual gameplay, like this is pretty high up there.
Agreed. I think a better comparison to Samus Returns actually would be the Spider Spark, where you activate it with the Spider Ball and the Power Bomb. But even then, it's still much better because the Spider Spark in there, it was limited to only one directional input, and you can't store charge and use your momentum to like go around the map with it. It's basically a one-time use thing.
And most people don't even know that it's in the game.
Yeah,
it's true. It took me so long to figure out
Samus
that
Return
technique.
spoilers for some people.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah,
it's so dumb.
Yeah,
but, yeah.
I would agree that once you get past like the new kind of input, I guess, for like using the speed booster and kind of how it's implemented into the game, it feels really good. I wouldn't agree that it's the best implemented gameplay mechanic because, and it's on my list, the flash shift for me is that kind of thing, and in conjunction with like the speed boost or whatnot, just makes this game feel so cool. But I think getting the flash shift, this might even be on some of your lists. That's where I felt the formula was starting to change more significantly. Because I mean, you've had like speed booster and Shine Spark in previous games, and even though it wasn't in like Samus Returns, it's been there almost all the time. So in that way, like, it's coming back. It's been kind of reinvented a little bit, but otherwise it's still a mechanic that we're familiar with. Whereas the flash shift felt like such a departure from how you normally control Samus. It just really felt like an evolution of the game that we were hoping for before Dread came out. So I agree with what everything you guys just said, but for me, the biggest like gameplay addition was, and I've talked about this in the show before, just how much I love the flash shift in terms of the uses you get out of it, how much you can explore, and how much it changes the combat. It gives you more control over Samus, and then when you pair it up with other abilities, it feels even better. So that's my pick for best gameplay addition.
I'll say for the flash shift, while I definitely, for me, the speed booster is my favorite new addition, I have to agree with you. The flash shift is definitely, I think, the biggest game changer in terms of how you approach the game, and especially in regards to the combat, because when it comes to 2D Metroid combat, I always thought that was one of the weaker aspects of the series. I felt like combat was, like, it shined in boss battles on occasion, but in the general traversal, it was more about movement, not necessarily about combat with general enemies. Mm-hmm. But the flash shift kind of improves that across the board in both general traversal and boss fights. And it actually reminded me a lot of how combat is handled in Doom Eternal, where you're dashing around the map, dodging and weaving enemies while while hot swapping to different weapons for enemies depending on what the best way to kill them is. And you kind of do. You don't really do as much hot swapping in Dread as you do in Doom Eternal, but you do a lot of dodging and weaving because of the flash shift, and it makes the combat. First of all, it just looks cooler in action, but it keeps you on your and it keeps you on your toes, but without getting you too sweaty, if that makes sense. Like it keeps you warmed up. You don't fall asleep, if that makes sense.
But you can definitely get sweaty, which I love about it too. Like if you really want it, and that's the thing, is that it also opens up, like you were talking about, like the enemy and boss diversity, because now you have a Samus who can move around a lot more, so you can have enemies that can move a lot more and who can attack larger portions of the screen at the same time, because you can get out of the way more easily and have a higher average speed than you do in other Metroid games. So it opens up not just like that gameplay department, but also how the enemy encounters can, advance as well. Change that up too. And when I first got the flash shift, like I don't know, I feel like everyone did this. You get it, you just boost the back and forth over and over. You're like, oh, this is so cool. Like finally getting an air dash in Metroid, I felt like that was just the actual getting of the flash shift, and then just like abusing it real quick and running around with it and using it really liberally and mashing it over and over and over again to like, all right, now I got to keep playing. Like that was such a cool moment. And yeah, it felt like a really significant, I guess, moment of a shift, no pun intended, in terms of how the game plays for the franchise.
I agree with pretty much everything you say, and I guess the only thing that I can add to that is that the flash shift isn't just good for combat. I also find it like incredibly useful for traversal as well, just in terms of like getting to one area quicker, or kind of using it as like a little bit of a, like sometimes you can jump up and wall jump and then flash shift, and you can get to areas that you just wouldn't be able to get to otherwise. So it's a really useful tool for being able to traverse the map. So it's kind of like an all, encompassing power up that really does change the way that you can navigate, fight enemies, everything like that. So it's a much welcome addition, and I can't imagine that there would be, a Metroid game without it now, right? Like I just can't imagine them taking it away. So to keep on the gameplay kind of specific things about Metroid Dread here, I have a very simple one, but it brought me immense satisfaction. And I'm sure, like you gentlemen, I saw the game over screen probably about 1,000 times when the Emmys would just like plunge their daggers into my soul. But man, the first time that you counter an Emmy and you pull it off is so good. It's so good. It makes me feel like I'm like the best Metroid Dread player ever. And particularly when you do it the second time, like when you do the spin kick. Like the first one is definitely easier when the Emmy is like, coming with its hand and coming towards you. The second one, for me, I found is a lot harder. So being able to counter those is like just it's a small thing, but just immensely satisfying every single time. Love it.
Yeah, I have a lot of clips on my Twitter of some pretty clutch counters in my various playthroughs, especially during the Omega Cannon section. So it's like a counter and then a quick kill, and so those are always super satisfying. Even to this day, now that I've gotten more adjusted to a lot of those counter timings. But yeah, especially like during your first playthrough when it felt like you had to be frame perfect. Like, oh, those were just unreal, and like those really like got the hairs standing up on my arms.
Yeah, those were so good. All right, let's keep it going here. I'm gonna give you another one, and it's kind of gonna mix story and gameplay, but this was revealed before Metroid Dread officially launched. But dude, when I saw the trailer and I saw Kraid come back, I was just like, oh my god, this is absolutely 10 out of 10 already, because this guy, Kraid, hasn't been seen in like 15 years since he last showed up as Zero Mission. I don't know what he's been doing. He got captured by Raven Beak, and was brought to ZDR. For me, I didn't care how he got there. It was just so cool seeing him. And then, like, the amount of ways that you can damage and kill Kraid is, like, just staggering. So, if you sequence break, you can get the bombs early. You can go and you can just get shot right from the Morph Ball launcher into his disgusting, pussy belly button and bomb him and blow him up. It kind of reminds me of how you could beat Dragon with the grapple hook in Super Metroid. Or if you have the flash shift early, you can just use his little scale things and climb them and get up to the top, flash shift over to his mouth, and then like you're inside of there just peppering him with missiles. There's so many creative ways to fight Kraid. I know that it's like maybe a more simple boss fight compared to some of the other fights that we see in this game, but the fact of like just that it's Kraid coming back, and for someone like me that grew up playing Super Metroid was like super awesome to see him back, and then like all the different creative ways that you can deal damage to this guy just is like such a highlight for me of Metroid Dread.
Yeah, I
All right, I
definitely
guess I'll
agree.
speak since.
No, I was sorry, I was muted for a second. Well, I mean, I was also enthralled by Andy's love for Kraid, and no, I 100% agree. I think at this point, I've definitely kind of like I don't really care like how he kind of got there, even though I wish there was a better reason for it. But it's fine. I think at the end of the day, like it was a really awesome return for a beloved character who is very memorable, even if they don't show up very often. So having Kraid come back and be part of the Metroid franchise proper and be relevant again in the modern games is really cool. And yeah, it's not like a very hard or difficult boss or anything, but you can get creative with it. And I think that's, because Kraid is an earlier boss, like it was pacing wise, it made sense to not be, have Kraid be over the top. And it also kind of played into showing Samus as a really strong character as well, and not even just from like the cutscene, but like Samus comes in just like demolishes Kraid, has no problem dealing with Kraid, and is not even scared even remotely, which is what we kind of want to see from her character. So overall, I was really happy with the presentation and happy that Kraid returned, and maybe Kraid will return again in another form, maybe show up as Meta Kraid, which is still the one Kraid return I want to see. And I would have popped. Actually, that's the one thing I maybe would have changed. If it was Metacrade for some reason, I would just been like, hell yeah! Like if we're like just go all out. Who cares? Why? Just make it happen. So overall, I really liked this as well, and I was happy you liked it, but also happy that it seemed to be a very well received thing, and I think also kind of helped the advertising of the game as well, because Metroid fans made it like very clear that this was kind of like a serious deal, and was a significant thing for this character to come back. So people who know who Kraid was, or people who already knew who Kraid was, obviously hyped. People who didn't be like, oh, everyone else is hyped for this. Well, I'm definitely going to check it out. So yeah, definitely cool. Love to see Kraid back, and hopefully it's not the last time.
Yeah. The Kraid fight. When I first did the Kraid fight, I thought it was decent, but the more I've played the game, the more I've really started to enjoy and appreciate it. Like you mentioned, Dak, it's not as over the top as some of the other boss fights, but I think like for a Kraid fight and like what we've gotten before, I do think that like they took it to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
I still do kind of wish there was a little more, because I think my biggest thing with the fight is that you basically do the exact same thing that you did in Super Metroid and Zero Mission. You climb the spikes, hit him in the mouth, and then he dies. But now there's like some more flair and pizzazz to it, which I think is fine. I do kind of wish that there was like a different phase of the fight where you were doing something different. Like maybe we could see like a full body Kraid where he's not like submerged partly under the ground or something like that. But that aside, it's a really cool visceral fight, a really awesome callback. It was the one thing that I was spoiled on before Dread was released. Definitely not the worst thing to be spoiled on, but I do kind of wish that wasn't in the trailers. I know I'm in the minority on that, but it's whatever. More importantly of all, spoiled or not, it's a dope fight. Really cool to see him back, and yeah, don't have much else to add to that.
All right, well let's keep it going here, and I'm gonna move slightly more towards the story here, and maybe actually I'll just say it, and then Dak, you can take it away, because I'm sure that this is on your list as well. But
Okay.
the moment when you first get to Elun and you venture into the depths, and wouldn't you know it, the X are alive and well. That was such a cool moment to see the X come back and to see them in like 3D and HD and just moving around, and it was super, super cool. Forever people have talked about a Metroid Fusion remake. I still think it's going to happen, but in many ways, like, this was pretty close to a Metroid Fusion remake. And then, of course, the moment later in the game when you're fighting one of the bosses, Escu, there's a wicked surprise there as well.
Yeah, I think there's actually a moment before you get to that port in or that point in Elun where you fight a Chozo soldier and then it's revealed they're kind of like an X parasite, but it's not the full reveal. If I remember correctly, it's like, yeah, when you get to the actual area and you open that door and they start flying out and you start going through the hallways and they're flying around. Like, I think it's one thing to have like allusions to the X and maybe X, infected enemies show up, but to actually see them floating around exactly like they did in Fusion with the same kind of lofty like lightness and levitivity and how they fly around, that little sound effect and act like the same kind of gameplay encounter. That was so good. And then yeah, the SQ fight. I mean, I think I clipped that on my stream, and that was one of my favorite moments of my original playthrough, and just one of my favorite moments of Dread. Period is when you kill SQ and it becomes a Korax. And that I just, because again, it's also it's one thing to bring the X back, but then to also go add the X enemies, add the core X, like do everything as you would like from an original from Metroid Fusion. Like that just spoke to me. That was so hype. It's like, it's still a Core X. Like, I actually can't believe I got that excited for a Core X. Like, that's how happy I was just to see some more Fusion stuff and bring that kind of stuff back. Because, Fusion's my favorite 2D Metroid. And seeing those elements come back in full, like a modern game in full 3D, just so sick. The core, even though it was like one of the weaker boss fights, that boss fight, I think, ranked up a little higher for me because of the Core X element to it. Like, that was just so sick. And again, the Core X comes back and you fight it the same way. And it's so good. They nailed that. So yeah, the X getting loose from Elun also on my list as I posted on the Discord, so you can now see it. So it actually wouldn't be a surprise to you, and it really shouldn't be, because I think I've talked about how happy I was to see this in both accounts, both the X and the Core X. So yeah, these were both two major moments for me, and both on my list as well.
I think what works
that Core X moment. Whew.
Yeah.
Whew.
I think what works so well to me about the X reveal is that there isn't like this big bombastic buildup as well. You open the door and then it's just there, like right there in front of you. There's no big
Yep.
like big awing orchestral theme or any like buildup. It just comes at you. It's just a part of the game now, and it integrates itself into the gameplay so seamlessly. And I just think that is so well done. And then of course the Core X pop. I think all of us popped off when we first saw the Core X appear.
That was so
sick.
It
was just such a cool unexpected surprise. That is an example of fan service done right, I think.
And you know what? It really shouldn't have been a surprise, because I think that the X, like, really, they, even in Elun, like, they were redone quite faithfully. They moved like X, they turned into enemies like X, they morphed like X into different enemies if you just let them, linger for too long. It was all very faithful, but yeah, still, I don't know, I wasn't expecting to see that Core X pop up, so it definitely made that fight just be like, whew, this is sweet. So yeah, that was a definite pop for sure. But I'm just gonna go down. Actually, you know what? Here's a big pop too. This was another one that was kind of not spoiled, but it was shown in the promotional material for Metroid Dread. But I mean, the first time seeing that Raven Beak and Samus fight, it was so good in the opening. Man, just seeing, first of all, seeing a living, breathing Chozo is like just so incredibly awesome. But seeing, what we had been calling the Dark Chozo from Samus Returns pop up and play an integral role in the game. And just, I really liked, actually, the plot of Raven Beak. I know that that's maybe hit or miss among us, but I thought that the general idea for him was good. I thought that, like, the fight scene was awesome. That was just, like, such a cool moment for me to see. And it kind of doubled in a way, too, that it was, like, during that fight, you saw Samus be, like, vulnerable, but also self-assured, and, like, just kind of exhibit the mannerisms that I think that we would hope for coming from Samus. And so that was kind of like another indication, like, this is how this version of Samus is going to be. So that whole sequence, the opening fight with Raven Beak, is like it still gets me, and it's incredible that that's in, like, the first 2 minutes of the game.
Yeah, though, to be fair, the first encounter is not really much of a fight. I mean, Samus kind of gets bodied the first time she runs into Raven Beak. It is a really cool sequence though, and yeah, the end fight is really awesome. Um, I see it's not on your list, but I was surprised because I thought you put it on your list when Raven Beak's bird wings, like angel wings, come out or whatever, which I thought was really.
Oh, that was pretty cool.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. See, I thought it was really funny because I was like, why is this happening? Because it's so like on the nose. It's like, oh, the Chozo are birds. Therefore, this guy literally has big raven wings, which
Oh,
which
that
I
was cool.
I was like,
It gave me like the Sephiroth vibes. And I was like, yep,
yeah,
I'm
it's
down for
like
this.
it's. I knew you were gonna say that. Yeah, I thought that was really funny to me, which it's not on my list as a favorite moment, but I guess it should be because it made me laugh. And it's making me laugh now as I talk about it. So I was surprised I didn't see it on your list as just a cool thing, but I guess I'll chalk it up as meant to be on the list.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the opening cutscene. I mostly like it. The one, and God, this is gonna sound like such a minute nitpick, but like, so Samus walks out of the elevator, and she's facing dead center of the bridge where Raven Beak is, and she doesn't react. Then she looks to the right, then she looks to the left, and then she looks to center again, and then she puts her gun up because she sees Raven Beak. But it's
Raisin
like,
Beak.
yo, Raisin Beak,
Raisin
Hell
Beak,
yeah.
that's his name now.
Raisin Bran.
Raisin Robe.
That is a small minute detail that I don't care about. I think that's
There are
fine.
other minute details in this game about that you could probably complain about, like the fact of how Samus like just shows up on like a Chozo ship and just sticks her arm cannon into it, doesn't think about it at all. It's like, yep, this is definitely not going to hack my system or drain me of energy or anything. It's a nav system on this evil
I
Chozo
mean, she stuck her
plane.
gun in plenty of other foreign tech on the
And
planet. Like, what's
agree,
one more
and,
thing?
and similarly, she shouldn't have done that either without a little bit of forethought. But hey, I'm not the one writing this. But yeah, I also agree. I think it's a valid but still minute observation.
It's not that big of a deal, but it's something I notice anytime I watch the cutscene. It's just like, bruh.
Let's keep it going here, Dak. I'll throw it over to you. What you got?
Okay. So this is one of my favorite parts of the game earlier, I think before anything we've talked about already, and that's the thermal room escape in Artaria. That's, I think, one of the coolest gameplay moments of the game. It's when you're getting out of there, I think the second time you go into Artaria, and there's like a bunch of debris falling and flame bursts and fire all over the place. You got to shoot your way out a little bit. And I believe it's just before you get the
Just before you get the
suit.
Vari
Yeah,
suit,
so thematically, look at that. That makes sense. But I thought that was such a cool, like, I love it. Like, that's one of my favorite things in Metroid are the escape sequences. But I love, like, the escape sequences that aren't at the end of the game. So, like, you know, Metroid Prime, you have the Frigate Orphean escape sequence, which is right at the beginning. And this isn't that right at the beginning, but it's still pretty early in the game. And I was hoping we would get maybe one more of these sequences before the actual end escape, because the end escape, obviously, with the watermelon suit isn't really, you know, as tense, I guess. It's more so like you're blasting your way out, and I mean, there really shouldn't be any thought of whether or not you're going to make it. This one, it's like still pretty early. You don't have all your abilities, so you're kind of roughing it. And I love the timing of it. It was a really awesome sequence. I love these kind of like environmental shifts, and it makes the gameplay feel more diverse because it involves, again, that higher movement and a little bit more platforming while you're shooting your way out. It's not, it forces some tension onto you, which is really cool. And yeah, I thought it was overall a really effective gameplay moment, a really awesome story moment, and just felt like a lot of fun. And it stuck out to me immediately. It was one of my favorite moments of the game. So yeah, this is definitely a big highlight for me, the thermal room escape.
Hey, Metroid Other M, this is how you do a hell run.
You know what? I'm gonna build on what you said, because when you get to, and this wasn't on my list, but I really like this mechanic in Metroid Dread. But when you get to Artaria again, and you're about to do that sequence, you get there because you've taken the red teleport station. Mm-hmm. And I thought that the way that this game uses the teleport stations is actually really well done, because like you can get to all the teleport stations, and they take you to kind of where you need to be, but then later in the game you can also just use them as you would imagine that you would use a teleport station just to get around the planet a little bit more. I thought that this really helped with like the pacing of the game. It forced you, didn't force you, but like you never really get too lost when using these teleport stations. So I don't really hear a lot of people talk about it. Maybe it's not really a big thing, but I thought that they were done really well and added, to the overall structure of the game in a really positive way.
Actually, yeah, I'll go off that as like a favorite moment in the game where I like actually popped off, because one of my biggest fears, I don't want to say fear, that's a bit hyperbolic, but one of my something that I was curious about after Samus Returns is whether or not it was going to follow that same progression structure where it was basically level 1, level 2, level 3, where you could complete the game without backtracking to a single area, or if it was going to be that old school kind of Metroid progression where you're going from one area to a next area to another area and then going back to another area and then going to a new area and then going back to the first area, etc., etc. And at first, Dread, it seemed to be progressing in that level 1, 2, 3 section, but then after you hit Daron, you have to go back to Cataris, and then you're in Cataris for a bit, and then you have to go back to Arteria. And that really hyped me up, because it was that moment where I realized, oh my gosh, this is classic Metroid progression.
Backtracking. You just popped
exactly.
off.
No, but unironically, like literally, I was popping off. I was like, "Yo, I get to go back. I have to go back to the beginning. Let's go." But yeah, and it's done. And you brought this up, Andy, with the teleporters. It's done in such an intuitive way this time, to where the game, if you're taking the intended path, obviously you can go off the beaten path if you want. There's a bunch of sequence breaking opportunities, both intentional and unintentional. But if you're going the quote unquote intended path, you will naturally stumble upon the right way to go, and it'll happen to take you in the right direction. And so it still feels like you're getting lost and exploring, whereas actually there's this really subtle hand guiding you the way. Probably not in a perfect way, but in my opinion, I think the best the series has done up to this point, at least in the 2D entries.
I would agree with that. I mean, I think Samus Returns and like AM2R have that kind of unique challenge in terms of like all the areas kind of feeling like levels just based on the structure of those games. But it definitely was nice to see like the, you call it backtracking, and I guess, obviously that's what it is, but it's not like backtracking in a sense of like it's inconvenient. Like you have purpose and reason to go there, right? Which is why to me, like the world is just a big puzzle, and you can slowly unlock different parts of it and peel back the layers. So like that part is always really satisfying to me. And like, man, when you go back to Arteria the third time, like after you get the speed booster, you could just like go like bam, 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 bam. You can get like, I want to say 10 missile expansions like right in a row. Like that is always incredibly satisfying to me. So yeah, I like that part as well about Metroid Dread. Nice to see that it kind of, it's a Metroidvania, and it's unapologetic about being a Metroidvania. But at the same time, it's not like this is a Metroidvania where I don't think that a lot of people will ever feel too terribly lost, because it does have that really well-structured system to pace players and to navigate them and give them clues as to where they need to go. So kind of the best of both worlds.
Well, I don't know about David Jaffe, but otherwise I would agree.
Yeah, very true. Also, I want to chime in here because you happen to bring these up, and I wasn't expecting to talk about them today. But today I also learned that those teleporters are called teleportals. And
oh, that's right.
They're called teleportals, and that name is so far the most memorable name that I've encountered in Metroid Dread. I will not forget that those are called teleportals, whereas I've already forgotten Raven Beak's real name, or what the water place is called. I would love to hear a funny story from you.
So I'm sitting down. I'm with my wife, and I'm going off about all the areas in Metroid Dread, and I'm like, all right, Phrenia, Kataris, Berenia, Arteria, and my wife just like pops up. She's like, Spateria, and starts laughing her ass off.
It might as well be called that.
So there's like a DLC area in this game. We got a petition to have it named Spateria, because that would be badass.
That's the upper right hand corner area that everyone's speculating
Spateria
about.
Is coming. Yeah,
that's the DLC.
All right, well let's talk about, actually before we get there, let's talk about one thing on your list, Dak, and you know what? It's probably one of the highlights of the game as well for me. But that is the Frozen Arteria section. Speaking of, This is a great sequence. We've talked about it before in our Mapping Metroid episode where we covered Arteria, but worth repeating here how like it was it was very Metroid Fusion like in that you have a direct goal and a direct path, but I think combined with the more, let's say, Super Metroid esque, revisiting style of map, I thought that I thought it worked really well and was like a nice change of pace, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, that's 100% agree with what you pointed out. How it's very Fusion like. Obviously, Fusion had its own like kind of frozen area, like many video games do. But the actual connection there is like you said. Okay, you're in the middle of something, but now you have to deal with this, and you don't have a choice. So like in Fusion, that happened. The elevators would go offline. You got to cut through the choked back, like behind the wall interior areas that are being choked by vegetation. Doesn't matter what you're working on, you got to go take care of this right now. Same thing, another reason why I love the thermal room escape that I mentioned earlier, again from Artaria. Great location, bad name, great location. And that's a sequence where it doesn't matter what you're doing, you got to handle this right now, you got to adapt. And this was another great example of this. It was a great kind of rendition of bringing back a kind of frozen area, but it also tied into the story because you're, dealing with the actual heating and cooling of the planet already, and you end up having to get that, the temperatures balanced once more. I just love this. It, again, changes up the gameplay, changes up the environment. It's a callback to not just like, look-wise to maybe a previous area in Fusion, but thematically, how it's implemented feels very Fusion-like. But you're right, it also has those kind of super elements and still gives you that sense of, all right, I'm meant to come back here anyway and still explore a little bit as well, and not just take care of an objective. So it's a mix of those two things. I also remember the music at this point being pretty solid. It's the kind of classic kind of this area's Frozen music from what I remember, but it's no Frendrana Drifts, or Frendrana Drifts Depths, but it is still pretty awesome. Overall, this is again one of those things I love about this game where it doesn't hesitate to change things up and make the gameplay feel different or the areas feel different, literally or figuratively. So yeah, this was one of my favorite areas. I love this, and Artaria is stealing the show for locations, I would say. Overall,
Yeah, we should do like a Mapping Metroid episode.
We should talk about it in depth.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we should travel back in time and let our past selves know so they can do an episode on that.
I would actually love to. I've been exploring Brenia a lot lately, and I think that is an underrated area.
That's the
next
rainy
Metroid
one,
Dread
right?
area. That's the water one. Yeah.
Water one. All right.
Yeah, that's the Camino level.
Yeah. The
Yes,
area
okay.
where you are forced to traverse without the gravity suit, and the environment is as much of a hazard as the enemies.
Oh my god,
Very
I
underrated.
love that. I love traversing the water without a gravity suit. That's on my list.
I know you do.
By the way.
Well, let me tell you what's on my list here, and I'm just gonna go full bore into like the big story moments here because I think that these were like super awesome. But like, we've been talking for almost 50 minutes, and we haven't brought up the Metroid suit yet. So I mean, that was just an absolute 100% awesome pop off my seat moment in Metroid Dread when Samus finally, I think by that point in the game, you kind of had an idea of what was going on. Like you'd seen in the trailers that Samus's hand was doing something funky, which by the way, Link's hand is doing something funny in Breath of the Wild too. So it seems like they got that in common.
Link's a Metroid.
Yeah. So, crossover time.
Really quick plug here, actually. I think a lot of that's actually based off Princess Mononoke. We're going to be diving into that show for the Champions Cast in the next couple weeks.
Show?
So if that strikes your fancy.
There's a
movie.
There's
I'm
a
sorry,
TV.
movie.
All right, I was gonna say I didn't know there was a TV
Movie,
show.
I'm sorry.
This guy.
But anyways, so yeah, Samus's hand is doing all this crazy stuff, and then of course the Metroid in her just like fully breaks out at this point. I guess with the Emmy beforehand, the orange Emmy, she had kind of demonstrated the ability to suck the life out of things like a Metroid would. But man, when she goes full Metroid and that suit comes on, oh my god, that is so awesome. It was such a wicked moment. That suit looks spectacular. The Hyper Beam is cool. Just an incredibly cool sequence. And like, man, I'm sure that there was fan art of Samus as a Metroid somewhere in the world before this game actually came out. And I'm sure that there was probably a lot of it after Metroid Fusion. But it just made so much sense with the Metroid DNA inside of her. And just, oh, dude, it was so awesome. And some people I think were kind of negative on it, but not me. I was just like, this is
couldn't be
cool.
me. No
It's
way.
such a sick suit design.
It's
awesome.
fan service. It serves the plot. It's just.
I don't think it's
so
fan
good.
service. I think that's a natural kind of progression, like you were saying. I mean, in that way, is any cool suit that Samus has fan service? I don't really think so. I think
Yeah. There you go.
I mean, overall, I think the suit. It looks awesome. It makes sense in terms of the story, and I honestly even want to point out the first time that Samus does do the siphon like a Metroid does. That was a pop off moment for me because that was badass. That was awesome, and I was like, oh, that's the role reversal a little bit more because even though Samus has been able to, I guess, technically absorb things, like how she did it, like physically, like putting her hand on it and just like sucking it out like Space Jam style, like that was sick. And then you have this suit. The only thing that really sucks for me is that it lasts for too short. I really wish that she kept it at the end of the game. And I'm like, okay, she still has it going into the next one. But I think I have to pass on my dream of Samus starting another game with that kind of continuity or like being fully powered. It's just not going to happen. They don't want it to happen. It's not going to happen. The universe doesn't want it to happen. So I guess her not keeping that suit to the end of the game makes sense. But I wish she was still holding on to it. I wish she didn't lose it. Like, I wish she had it longer than that 5-second sequence. But yeah, it's such a sick suit design. It's so I'm sure there are words for it that Numenal is waiting to use, but it's such an awesome suit design, and it's such a departure from most of her suit designs. I guess it's closer maybe more to what we get in like Prime 2. It's absolutely crazy. It's like Eldritch. It's so visceral. It's awesome. It's such an awesome looking suit, and it has a funny meme name, the watermelon suit, which I think works really well. So.
Yeah, that I believe that used to be the name of the Fusion Fairy suit, but then it got renamed to Clown Vomit in the community, which is
the Nashville Predators third jersey. Yes, that's
the Clown Vomit suit in
Yes.
Fusion is beautiful. Shout out to my boy Quest, he understands, and Torvis as well. For the True Fusion suit supporters. But yeah, so everyone knows my unpopular opinion. I'm not a fan of the Metroid suit design in this game. I actually think each suit...
I actually didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, I thought you were a fan. I thought you were a fan. I guess I had a whole intro saying you were going to even talk about it more than I was going to talk about it.
I thought you were memeing. Sorry. No,
I was unmemeing.
I think each suit looks progressively worse as you get them. I don't think any of them look bad. It's just like I don't think they even stack up to that base power suit design. But what I will say about the Metroid suit is I think it looks absolutely sick in the concept art. But there's something about it in the game that just doesn't work for me. I don't know if it's... I think for me, it's that I don't like Samus' suit being 100% organic, at least for a full game. And so I was kind of happy to see it come off. I like when it's all mechanical looking, or when it's kind of a hybrid of the two, but I don't know, there's something about it being fully organic that for Samus herself just doesn't jive with me. That seems like more of a Dark Samus thing.
Not a Spider-Man 3 fan over here.
Who is a Spider-Man 3 fan, to be fair?
Spider-Man 3 is wonderful for the memes.
I think that's the worst movie ever made.
You can't. No,
watching a movie
you like the
as I have that
prequels,
movie.
which are just as memey as Spider-Man 3. Spider-Man 3 has given us so much culturally.
Andy, I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
You can try. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I thought that was a lead up into something.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was a Spider-Man.
You're
it was
just
a
gonna
Spider-Man 3
literally-
reference.
Spectacular. Oh,
I thought
No, I was making a Spider-Man 3 joke.
there you go. Spider-Man
See-
3 brought the theater to a grinding halt, and it brought our show to a grinding halt as well.
That's
so
the problem is you're
that's
trying
the
to
power
make
of Spider-Man
an
3.
obscure reference. I only know the dance and the scene with MJ where he dumps her.
Join our
You
Discord,
gotta-
by the way, and you can get in on these conversations.
I gotta get you all on the
we had a
Bully
big
McGuire
Spider-Man
memes.
conversation today.
I'm surprised you
Let's,
don't like it, doing the suit. Going back to the suit, I'm sorry, but I'm surprised you don't like it.
I was gonna say, like, what is wrong with
Yeah.
you? That's such an awesome suit.
And
like,
I was let down too because I needed some of your awesome vocabulary. And you
I mean, I thought it was. So here's the thing.
I
The
came up with one
cutscene
word.
and like the context, the context of the suit in that moment was really cool, but just the design just on its own Not a fan. I don't know what to say.
See, I'm gonna flip it.
But
on
again,
you. Oh,
but again, in the concept art, it looks rad as hell, and there's some really cool fan-made amiibo of that suit, and it looks awesome in there. But there's something about it in the game that just doesn't mesh with me, and I'm not a visual artist, so I don't know quite what it is, other than I think the organic thing that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, see, I'm gonna flip it around and say that I actually did not like but I don't know if I'm a huge fan of the other suits in this game. I mean, I missed the original Fusion suit, but like the new suit, like it's cool looking, but it didn't totally win me over. It really didn't. The color scheme didn't totally win me over. I was kind of hoping it would be more Fusion suity, and it doesn't really feel that way. The Various suit, not the biggest fan of that look either. I think the Gravity suit looks cool though. And like,
See, I like the Gravity suit the least.
The Gravity suit looks dope. I think the Gravity suit probably looks the best, aside from the Watermelon suit. So I know we're all over the place here, but hey, conflicting. That's entertainment right there. Conflicting opinions.
Makes for good podcasting.
Makes good podcast. But yeah, I like the Watermelon suit. I was surprised you didn't like it, Duval, but I will say, I'm personally a big fan of when they let Samus's suit, maybe not just organic, but get a little more abstract. Like some of my favorite suits are, from the Prime games, from Fusion, where it's not just, okay, she's wearing a mechanical suit. It's like, oh, it's a different kind of technology, makes it look really different, makes it look really kind of alien. Or it is literally organic and kind of morphs with her and whatnot. The kind of in-between didn't really do it too much for me, and I personally didn't like how they, didn't at all show why the suit was different. They're just like, oh yeah, it's different. It changed off screen, don't worry about it. I'm like, all right, I guess. Like, what happened to the arm blades?
Read the Dread report to find out.
Read the Dread report. At least put the Dread report in the game. Have it be a scrolling text or something. Like, come on, I shouldn't have to go on the internet to, I shouldn't have had to go to a Fortnite event to find out Palpatine was coming back to the new Star Wars movie. That was a real thing that they actually did. So
why did you have to remind me about that?
So stuff like that.
You guys say the prequels are bad. Jeez.
Well, the prequel.
Hey, his words, not mine. Hey,
episode 3 is not bad.
I'm gonna make an executive decision here. We're gonna save part 2 of our conversation for next week, and I'm going to bring you my last moment. It was my number 1 pop off moment from this game. I was I remember fist pumping when this happened. You guys, I'm sure you guys know what it is. But man, when Quiet Robe is kind of telling Samus about Raven Beak's plan, and he unlocks the room in Berenia, and Samus just looks at him and says in Chozo, I'll finish this. That was so awesome. And I don't know why it was as awesome as it was, but I just know that I stood up and cheered. Maybe it was because
cried.
Maybe it was because Samus was talking in Chozo. Maybe it was because it was just a different voice coming out of Samus after really the only voice that we'd heard out of Samus being in Metroid Other M. It was just a cool scene that I really liked. I love the Quiet Robe scene. I think that's a good piece of storytelling. But I don't know. It's something about just seeing her with that quiet resolve. Just saying I'll end this or I'll finish it, or whatever she says. It's so awesome. And I was like, this is the Samus I love. This is the Samus I want. Who's just you know what? No matter what the danger, no matter what it takes, Raven Beak is going down. So this was such an awesome, awesome scene for me. I popped so hard when Samus spoke in Chozo. Fantastic scene. I loved it.
Yeah.
So I am dumb, and I thought that was an off-screen character the first time I played.
Oh yeah, I remember when you said this.
And so I literally had no reaction to the scene. I was just kind of confused. Wait, who was that? Is there a radio in the background? What's going on? And it's literally just me. It's literally just me. I am the dumb one here.
What?
No. Yeah, no. Because literally, so my friend, my friend Andy, shout out to not Andy on the podcast, different Andy who I know IRL. But he's only played Zero Mission and Dread, and when he was playing Dread, I was actually watching him in his playthrough, and during that cutscene, he was like, "Oh, she talks," and I'm like, "Wow, okay, it's just me. I'm just dumb. I'm just not able to catch very obvious cues like that." But so yeah, I didn't get to have that pop off moment, but it was quite a revelation when I was talking to other people, and then they told me about that, and I was like, wait, wait, are you talking about the end of the game where she yells? And they're like, no, the Chozo cutscene. Like, what are
Oh
you
my
talking about? How
God.
did you miss that? And I'm like,
Oh,
and I rewatched it. And I'm like, yeah, how did I miss that?
now that you mention that moment where she's yelling at the end, that was actually really hype. That was one of my favorite moments.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I think
the
that I like
the
more.
memes for that scene are also top
Yeah.
tier, especially like the Doom music overlaid on that. Like,
Yeah, I think that I like more than any of her stuff actually with Quiet Robe. That's his name, right? Yeah.
Yes, there you go.
I mean, I will say I'll finish this point. I mean, what else can you say right there? Like, you gotta get the job done. So I liked. I think overall her interaction with the Chozo was actually undercooked for me. But that moment was cool. But I liked more her like just like yelling. I did think it was also kind of funny, but I don't know why. Just stuff in this game that meant to be serious made me laugh. And but that was really hype, and I did like that she was talking in Chozo. That was pretty cool. But yeah, that's a moment in maybe in another Metroid game that we won't speak of where like Samus would have said some like I don't know, some dumb line or something. Like, I don't know. She would have like thumbs down or something. She would have done something stupid. In this game, she just like is like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll take care of it. I'm like, yeah, good.
No,
like you
no,
got
if it was Other M, it would have set off like another 10-minute
yeah, she would like
flashback
monologue or something. Yeah, or something. I'm like, she's just like, yeah, I got it. Like I got
What
you.
Quiet Rope told me. It
Yeah,
reminded
oh
me
my
of
God.
when Adam.
It's almost too easy.
All right. Nobody wants
Other
to hear
M2.
anybody beat up on Other M. Let's go.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that was a cool moment. I did like her yelling a little bit more, and this a little bit more than her initial interaction with Quiet Robe, which I felt was a bit underwhelming considering the gravity of the situation. But that was an awesome, very well like timed moment and well executed. Very simple. Like doesn't need to say anything else. Even like a nod would have been enough. But I think just be like, I'll finish this. Like, word, awesome, let's do it. And as the player, like, yeah, I'm gonna finish this. Let's go. Samus is gonna take care of it, and that's the character that Samus is. She takes care of things. She gets stuff done. So that was perfectly in line with the character we've now come to fall in love with again. So yeah, 100%. I'm that's up there for me too.
All right. I was expecting some pushback on that scene, actually. I know you're not like the biggest fan of that scene, but yeah, that I just thought that was like such an incredible scene. Saying a lot without really having to say much.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's a virtue, and that they got it right with Samus in that scene. And man, it was just cool to hear like the Chozo language coming out of Samus's mouth. That was cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the rest of my kind of favorite moments for Metroid Dread. I mean, I have so many that it would be, we could go on for another hour. I know that you had a bunch of boss fights that were on your list, Dak. I mean, I think like you could say almost every boss fight in this game is like a highlight. You really, we did the boss ranking a few weeks back, and even the worst one was like still pretty fun. I think my worst one was Eskew, which had the Core X pop out, which, as we talked about, was like an incredibly hype moment. So like even the quote unquote bad ones are still pretty awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, this game, as we've said so many times, is one of the best boss and enemy wise. Like, and it's such an awesome evolution from Samus Returns, which didn't have that diversity. Like, this game has it in spades. Yeah, I have a couple mentioned in my list, so I won't go through all of them. I do want to mention the Experiment Z57 fight because it was just awesome, and necessary setup and payoff. Like, they teased the character in the background for a little bit, and then you finally get to fight them, and it was an awesome character design and such a sick fight. So yeah, the Experiment Z57 was cool, but actually I might even think my favorite all-time moment, maybe other than the Core X or the X showing up, because this is hard to really decide what my all-time, like my favorite moment is, but the first twin robot Chozo soldiers fight. Wow. The first time you fight those twin robot Chozo soldiers, I specifically remember popping off because I was having so much fun with that fight, and you're just flash shifting.
I saw that on stream.
Yeah, like it was so sick. I felt it in my heart right there. That was gaming. Like that was so much fun. Just flash shifting, like running around, like trying to get a couple shots in. Like that was pure run and gun gameplay right there. And I'm just flash shifting all over the place, getting shots off, and the music was sick. It was an awesome arena to fight them in. Like that was one of my favorite Metroid moments, I think, of all time. I had so much fun with that, and it stuck with me ever since. I think that might have been like my favorite boss fight overall, just because it was like, yeah, like let's throw 2 of these guys at her. And the first fight, the first robot Chozo fight was still, I remember being, I needed to handle that one. That was a lot of fun too. And then the next one, just like, all right, you got 2 of them. I'm like, oh my god, yes! Like they're chasing me down so hard. It was like, I absolutely love that. I had to write that down because it wasn't like a story moment necessarily or like the final boss. It was just such a really, really good boss fight in the game itself that just spoke for itself. They just added more. They're like, you like this boss fight? Here it is again, but 2 times the boss. And I'm like, perfect. Love that. So yeah, I couldn't not mention that. That was one of my favorite moments in Metroid period.
I guess if you're going to shout out those boss fights, I'll have to shout out Raven Beak, because I still think that is one of the best boss fights in like the entire series to this date. I think it's up there with Quadraxis and AM2R Queen, and just an absolutely incredible boss fight that just would not be possible in a previous 2D Metroid game. Boss theme aside, like I don't even care if the theme doesn't work for me. The actual fight itself is so visceral and cool, and there's just so much fun tech to do, especially the dash counter, dodge you can do when he does the beam burst at you to where he'll aim just above your head. Stuff like that. Just I love doing that.
Yep. That's as we talked about, that's a highlight, I think, of just Metroid in general. That Raven Beak boss fight. The cutscene was awesome, but that boss fight is also incredible. There was a lot of incredible moments in this game. I feel like we've only kind of scratched the surface, and like if we really got into the nitty gritty about some of the gameplay specifics, like I said, we could probably go on for a lot longer, but we're gonna cut it off there, and we will come back next week with our original. We were gonna bookend this show with some theories about what might Metroid Dread have looked like if it launched on the DS, and how the Metroid series might have changed course. But we'll save that for next week, because actually I think that maybe is a conversation that we could have for a little bit of time too, because thinking about that, I don't know, there's a lot of different ways that could have went, so I'm excited to talk about that. And by God, I'm excited that we are entering another year of the Omega Metroid podcast. So this was a lot of fun. It was a nice positive show to get the year kicked off right. I had a good time with you guys.
Yeah. It's
yeah,
always
absolutely.
good hanging with the boys, with the homies. Absolutely. Yeah, loved it. And
It's a good year to be a Metroid fan.
it is.
All right.
It's a good decade to be a
Metroid
Metroid
Prime
fan.
returns. That's coming. Star Wars prequels are sweet. What else? Spateria for Metroid Dread. Let's keep it go. Avril Lavigne.
Dude,
Spider-Man
I was
3
dude, I was
memes.
thinking about the CDs, and I want to find my load and reload CDs, because I listen to those all the time, bro. I love Fuel. So good.
Okay. All
Anyway,
right.
I thought about that. That and Good Charlotte. I think it was my first CDs I ever had, was the first Good Charlotte
Good
album.
Charlotte.
Yeah.
Ugh.
What? No, Good
wasn't- I
Charlotte's
wasn't
great.
down.
Oh, you're hater.
No. All right. Well, we are going to go ahead and get out of here, but we want to, encourage you guys to check us out over on Twitter. We are at Omega Metroid Pod. I am at Spateri316. Dak is at DakCity_, and Doom is at Doominal Cross. And check us out wherever you get your podcast too. Like and subscribe. Tell that Metroid fan in your life where they can get their weekly Metroid fix. And man, the possibilities that this year has are exciting and seemingly endless. We've got Metroid Prime rumors. We've got maybe Game Boy Advance games coming to Switch. We've got Metroid Prime 4 lurking on the horizon. So it's going to be a fun year with lots to talk about. And we're going to be here with you guys for the whole ride. So until next week, everybody, take care.